The Sci-Forror Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sci-Forror Film Podcast. I am, and he is, and we are. So there you go. Hello, Scott. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Good.
Feeling very annoyed because I have come on the camera and realised that I am in desperate need of a haircut.
Do you not have mirrors in your house?
Yes, but I don't use them because I know what I look like, and I don't. Well, actually, I've got two. One's in the bathroom and one's at the top of the stairs. I try and avoid the one that's at the top of my stairs with a passion because it freaks me out, especially if I go up there late at night because of the way that it's angled. And the one in the bathroom is at such a dodgy angle. If I look at it, I end up with backache.
Okay. See, I know what I look like as well, but sometimes I have to use a mirror to do things like wash or
Oh no, I do
have a shave or
yeah,
brush
I
my
don't
hair.
shave. You can, as people that can see this video could tell, I don't shave.
I do, and I still look just as rough as you. Terrible.
I
Anyway,
look rough.
Enough of this witless banter. Witty repartee. Let's get on with things. This week on the Sci-Forror Film Podcast, we are doing something unusual and extreme.
Yeah, we're going to talk about films that we actually like.
No. No, we're certainly not going to do that. What we are going to do is I searched long and hard for films that have you have a film and then you only have one sequel rather than an entire series of dreadful sequels. This has only got one this has only got one sequel. It's difficult to find them, especially with science fiction stuff, I find, and horror. Actually, it's difficult anyway. But I did it.
Yes,
so we are going to be reviewing two feature films. Both of them science fiction films. Well, I would say obviously, but that's not necessarily true. But two science fiction films, one of which is the sequel to the other. Obviously, the second one is the sequel to the first.
I was going to say, it
could be a prequel.
It could be, yeah, but still the other one would, the prequel, the one after the prequel would still be the sequel to the prequel.
No, if the prequel comes after the film,
yeah, but the prequel
or a prequel.
Exactly. Even though the prequel will come afterwards, it's still meant to be set before the original film. So the original film would then be the prequel. The sequel, I mean, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not. So let's get on with things. Right. The very first film that we will be doing is the 1992 sci-fi film, The Lawnmower Man. Now, this uses the title of Stephen King's short story, even though it really has nothing to do with Stephen King's short story, apart from the fact that there's a man in it who cuts grass and there is a lawnmower involved. They're the only two things that have anything to do with the original story. And Stephen King actually went to court to get his name taken off the film.
Well, to be honest, even if this, well, seeing the film, I'm not surprised. Even if it wasn't the fact that it was just that random snippet of information from his story that he wrote, it was just that. I still would have had my name taken off this film.
Yes. So yes. Anyway, right. So this film was directed by Brett Leonard. Now, we've already talked about Brett Leonard. Brett Leonard did The Dead Pit in 1989. He did a load of music videos for people like Peter Gabriel and Billy Idol and people like that. He did Hideaway in 1995. Virtuosity in 1995, which we've already covered. Man Thing in 2005. Feed in 2005. He did the TV movie of Highlander, The Source in 2007, and a film called Dark Star, which there's no date for, but I don't quite know what it is. So there you go. He also helped to write the screenplay for the film, along with Gimel Everett, who also wrote the screenplay for The Dead Pit in 1989. So there you go. Let's get on to the cast now. The cast, the star of the show, as it were, is Jeff Fahey, who did lots of TV shows and things like that. To start off with, he was in Psycho 3 in 1986, Out of Time 1989, Body Parts in 1991, Serpent's Lair in 1995, Darkman 3 in 1996, Johnny 2.0 in 1997, Time Under Fire 1997, Revelation in 1999. He did a TV series called Wolf Lake, and he did in the late 90s, early 2000s, did Unspeakable in 2002, Fallen Angels in 2002, Dark Hunters in 2004, Corpses in 2004, Crimson Force in 2005, Locusts, the Eighth Plague in 2005, Planet Terror in 2007, The Sacred 2012, Beneath in 2013, and he was in Alita Battle Angel in 2019 and The Long Night in 2022. Yes, so lots of big name films. Then, of course, we have Pierce Brosnan. Now, Pierce Brosnan is probably best known to people for being James Bond for quite a few years. He started off in the TV series Hammer House of Horror.
Yes.
He was in Nomads in 1986, Mars Attacks in 1996, World's End in 2013, Black Adam in 2022, which I don't think has actually come out yet.
No, it hasn't yet. I think it came out in August, maybe July.
Other than that, between like 1986 and between 1992, actually 1996, he did James Bond stuff.
James Bond stuff.
Yeah, Lawnmower Man was probably one of the last films he did before he did Bond. I think, I'm not sure. I'm surprised.
Probably wanted to try and get away from sci-fi after that.
I'm surprised he got Bond after doing this, to be honest. But there you go. Anyway, then we have Jenny Wright, who was in Near Dark in 1987 and I Am Madman in 1989, and then did this and gave up on acting. Don't know.
Again, I'm not surprised.
We have Mark Bringleson, who was in Ultra Warrior in 1990, The First Power in 1990, Assault on Dome 4 in 1996, and Soldier in 1998. Okay. We have Jeremy Slate, who was in lots of TV series in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And he did Curse of the Moonchild in 1972 and The Dead Pit in 1989. Colleen Coffey, who was in lots of TV series in the 1990s, and that's it. Jim Landis, who was in 976 Evil in 1988, which is actually not a bad film, to be honest. Then we have Jeffrey Lewis. Now, Jeffrey Lewis was in Moon of the Wolf in 1972, loads of TV series stuff in the 70s, Human Experiments in 1979, did loads of TV stuff in the 1980s. He was in Night of the Comet in 1984, Annihilator in 1986, Out of the Dark in 1988, Disturbed in 1990, loads of TV series in the 90s as well. Trilogy of Terror 2 in 1996, Song of the Vampire in 2001, did loads of TV series in the 2000s. Light in the Darkness 2002, The Fallen Ones 2005, The Devil's Rejects in 2005, Fingerprints 2006, Wicked Little Things in 2006, and Mummy's Little Monster 2012. There you go. Dean Norris was in loads of TV shows in 1980s, 90s, 2000 and 2010s. He did Total Recall in 1990, Gremlins 2, The New Batch in 1990, Terminator 2 Judgment Day 1991. It Came from Outer Space 2 in 1996. Gattaca in 1997. Starship Troopers 1997. The Cell 2000. The One 2001. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark 2019. And Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark 2, which doesn't actually have a release date. So there you go. He's quite well known. You know him if you see him.
Yeah, I did find this that I was sitting there for ages looking at him and I recognise him. I recognise him. What's his name? It's only when I looked out, I was like, of course, yeah. And I'm sitting there for ages. It just bugged me.
Then we have Troy Evans, who was in, again, loads of TV stuff in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. He was in Teen Wolf in 1985, Near Dark 1987, Deadly Dreams 1988, Martians Go Home 1989, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers in 1989, Demolition Man in 1993, Phenomenon in 1996, The Frighteners 1996, My Favourite Martian in 1999, where are we? Dracano, Dracano, I think it is, because it's supposed to be dragons coming out of a volcano. Dracano in 2013. Yeah, don't. Then we have Rosalie Mayo, which it was in TV series in the 1990s and 2000s, and was in a film Blast from the Past in 1999. Then we have, lastly, Austin O'Brien, who was in Last Action Hero in 1993, Apollo 13 in 1995, and Lawnmower Man 2 in 1996. There you go then. That's the cast for the film. The synopsis for this film says, on IMDb, it says, a simple man is turned into a genius through the application of computer science. Which seems fairly reasonable. And it's basically what the whole film was about. Now, I want to start off saying that I think that, I can't lift his name up now, Brett Leonard has a problem with virtual reality. He seems to think that people involved in virtual reality, or the people within virtual reality, are going to try and take over the world and destroy the universe and everybody in it, because that's basically what this is all about, and basically what virtuosity was all about.
Yeah, I was going to say it's almost becoming maybe his sort of cry for help. I think he when I watched this, I watched the whole way through it, and it come up. Obviously, credits come up, and it said his name, and I was like, "Hang on a minute!" And I almost wanted to Google him and just sort of figure out if he had any conspiracy theories going, or just
No.
either that, or he's just got a massive fascination with VR stuff.
So, okay, apart that aside, what did you think of the film?
Well, some of the I'm going to start this off, Pat, and some of the shots at the beginning with that were meant to be over the shoulder of the monkey or on the head of the
Yeah,
monkey.
through the eyes of the monkey, yeah.
Yeah, even though it looked like it was on its head. Oh my days! I don't be wrong. I know this is 30 years old. This film,
Yeah.
and it's film was made a year after I was born. I would like to think that, like myself, a lot of things have aged quite well from the 90s. I hate to say that I don't think this film has.
Yeah. The effects, both the ones from the camera of the monkey and also the VR effects in the beginning of it, well, in almost all of it, in the beginning part of it especially, are not the greatest effects I've ever seen. They are somewhat lacking.
Yeah. See,
And I know this was early on. This was early on in the whole CGI thing and all that kind of stuff. But even so,
but for early on CGI, it's okay. Like and sort of later on in the film when they're doing the more hand motion and stuff like that, it is okay. It's better. It does look quite good, but that's as much as I'm going to say about it.
if you look at it, the effects in Virtuosity, which is only 3 years later, were 10 times better than this.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think the only good thing this had about it is the actual science behind the VR set, and
Yeah.
but even
Okay.
that really is sort of mentioned probably once or twice, and then that's it.
But say, okay, I mean, the first thing I've got to talk about in this, the first thing I've got to say in this is just how, and I know this is a personal thing, I know this is a very personal thing, but how truly awful Pierce Brosnan is as an actor in this film.
Yeah, it.
I just kind of watched this and thought, I've seen you in films where you are so much better than this.
Yeah, I've, it's stupid. I actually think his performance in Mars Attacks, where he really is only in it for a couple of minutes, is 10 times, million times better than this. This.
It's just really kind of for quite. I mean, it must have had a reasonable budget with the people they've got in it and with the company it was made by and all that kind of thing. But it's really kind of cheesy and cheap.
I will. I will say as well. It does. Was it me or did the set design for the lab look like sort of the one that they then used in Virtuosity?
Yeah, it may well
It's
have been.
the
I
same
don't know.
sort of set
Yeah,
design, the setup, but
it
it
wouldn't surprise me.
it's a very bizarre. Like it's weird. It's actually quite weird for because I was watching this and I thought to myself that this is there. This film's 30 years old. Some of the stuff they were saying about the way that VR was going to go, virtual reality was going to go, has actually happened now. Sort of that a
I
lot
did.
of people have got into doing it and have used it to escape.
Yeah, no, I can see that there are some things, but
But yeah, the
Pierce Brosnan gives this complete, like, real sort of like, thing about how virtual reality is going to be the savior of mankind. It's going to give us the ability to educate people better, to deal with mental health problems better, to make a whole system better. The mankind will become better because of this, and we will, go out and stride amongst the stars and be giants in the world. You're overselling it a bit, mate. It's
yeah.
virtual reality headset. It's
Oh, it's the thing that made me laugh. My thing that made me laugh though is the fact that it's sitting there, and as soon as I see what was going on, this is before like it was almost sort of obvious what was going to happen. But he's sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make this virtual reality headset. It's gonna make the world better." And I straight away went, "Military going to get involved."
well, this is the thing. The thing that gets me is I find it very hard to believe nowadays, and I know, as you say, the age of this film and all that sort of thing, but I find it hard to believe that any scientist looking back through history or watching a science fiction film for 5 minutes would not think that any invention they make is going to be weaponized by the government.
Yeah,
It happens every single time.
yeah,
Why would you be surprised by that?
yeah. And it's the thing. That's the thing is that as I was talking to my mum about this. I had to pause it and I just ranted. And even she said the same thing. It's just the fact that it seems to be almost that in a lot of these films, especially a lot of the older films anyway, that it's almost the films and all that are based in a universe where no one's ever seen a film and no one has any common sense.
Well, it's like just looking back at history. You only have
Yeah,
to look back a few hundred years to see the way that ordinary
everything,
ordinary
every
things that people have
yeah,
invented have been used for weapons. And it's
yeah.
just kind of like, how would you be surprised that that's happened?
Well,
Why
it's
would
just
you?
yeah,
and,
especially as the
and
fact is
why
meant
would
to
you?
be
The other thing is,
a
why would you think that you could just turn around and go, "No, I'm not agreeing to that," and walk away, and everything will be fine?
yeah, and it's just the thing is as well that with this film is the fact that Pierce Brosnan's character
Mm.
blatantly crosses that whole ethics line where he sits there and goes, "Can't be used for war. Can't be doing this. Can't do that. We need to make sure it's tested properly." Yet does it unawarely to the guy that is cutting his grass.
Yes, he just suddenly starts doing human
Yeah,
experiments with it
yeah.
without any kind of backup, without any kind of check.
Any
He doesn't know what's wrong with this guy. The guy might have huge physical and mental health problems that you can't see
Yeah,
that might be
it might
affected by this thing.
it might not be the fact that he's a learning difficulty. It might be a brain injury. It might be but straight away. It's just like, oh, let's just inject him. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's a code of ethics going wrong there somewhere.
It's also interesting how there is this definite idea that people who have some kind of learning difficulty or mental health problems or whatever, for some reason also can't physically hold themselves upright.
Yeah,
Because he went from being this kind of slightly doubled over sort of
yeah,
like to being this kind of
hunched
like
over to.
huge, sort of, and you just think, why was that then?
Yeah,
Was the weight of his brain being
and
being not
and the
clever?
fact that it's just nine with this and in a lot of films, it's the fact that they're either hunched over and sort of deformed or and can't seem to look after themselves, like can't brush their hair. I know a lot of people, I know a few people that have got quite severe mental health issues and learning difficulties, but yet still know how to use a hairbrush.
Yeah. Well, this
And
is
it's
it.
just like
But,
it.
but even, I mean, away from that, the whole situation of the film
Oh, just all of it. It just
is a bit kind of like, well, I don't get why it got so bad, so was allowed to get so bad, so and that. But by the end of it, obviously, I mean, this guy is a genius and he wants to take over the world because obviously, as a genius, that's the thing we want to do. What you want to do is you want to eradicate all the problems in the world and make sure everything's wonderful. And the way you do that is by taking over and telling everyone what to do.
well, the thing is, that he never actually said that he was going to take over, and what he said was he was going to help humanity help themselves out to cure the planet. He never
Yeah,
said once that he was going to get rid of them. Piers Brosnan's character and the rest of them automatically assumed that he was going to take over and kill them all.
yeah. So, but in the end, he kind of gets trapped inside the virtual reality thing by Pierce Brosnan,
Yeah,
and I'm not quite
I have
sure
got I have
why
got
that.
something to say with that. Really, just blatantly, the way that he was just set up is the fact that when they're all going to the base, yeah, there's loads of security guards, heavily armed security guards, standing outside the base.
Mm,
Now they all get attacked and they all run off with their weapons. I went back and checked.
uh,
Piers Brosnan's character then turned up, goes into the base, and just happens to find a fully loaded, with ammo and everything, gun laying on the side of, leaning up against the fence like it had been
yeah,
placed for a start,
but
and was
I mean,
happy to use it.
this guy is obviously, he gets the ability through the AI, through the VR stuff to take over people's minds and to control everything in the universe, including people's psyches and all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff. And he can, he's got telekinesis and he's got he can
can
read
make
people's
people
minds.
make people spontaneously combust.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, although the spontaneous combustion graphics were bloody awful,
Not as
you
bad
just
as
feel like
everyone
somebody
turned
had
into
drawn it with a
marbles.
pen.
Not as bad as the three people that turned into marbles.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. What were they? What was
Or
going
the
on there?
second guy when he opened his chest, or when he opened his top, what that was.
Like a vortex in his chest. But
Yeah,
then the third guy didn't actually disappear like the others did. He just kept kind of expanding and contracting
yeah.
for some bizarre reason. But then, yeah, so they try and trap him in there, and Pierce Brosnan blows the place up, and everything ends. Da 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 da.
Yes.
Supposedly,
Well, yeah.
everybody lives marginally happy lives in the world. It is without, where everything just goes wrong. That leads us on to the second film. Now, the second film, surprisingly enough, is called Lawnmower Man 2 Beyond Cyberspace. Now, this is directed and written by Farhad Mann. Now, Farhad Man, up until this point, had basically done TV films and TV series in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and nothing else. So he wrote the original story and the screenplay to this. The other person who wrote the story with him was Michael Miner, who also had to do with the writing of RoboCop in 1987 and the RoboCop TV series in the 80s. Every single one of all of the RoboCop TV movies and video games. And Anaconda's The Hunt for the Blood Orchid in 2004. Bit of a strange
Yeah,
thing.
that's a bit of a weird jump.
Yeah. So the lead role in this is the two lead roles. Patrick Bergen, who did lots of TV series and movies in the 90s, 2000, 2010s, including EastEnders, apparently. I don't remember him being in EastEnders, but there you go. He was in Escape Velocity in 1999, Merlin the Return in 2000, Devil's Prey 2001, Beneath Loch Ness in 2001, Ghostwood in 2008, and Shark Week in 2012. He did make some very good films at different times, though, as well, including quite a decent version of Robin Hood, which unfortunately was completely overshadowed by the version with Thingy in, the one Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, it came out around the same sort of time, but it wasn't a bad film, but it was completely overshadowed by the other one. The other lead role in this is played by Matt Frewer. Now,
I actually like this man as an actor.
Matt Frewer has done a lot of TV series and TV movies in the 80s, 90s, 2000 and 2010s. I'll come on to something about that in a moment. He did Supergirl in 1984, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 1989, Dawn of the Dead in 2004, Watchmen in 2009, Night of the Museum, Secret of the Tomb in 2014, Pixels, but he was only a voice character in that, in 2015, and Residue in 2017. Now, the reason I said I would come back to that is because Matt Frewer was the man behind the character Bax Headroom in the TV movie and TV series, and the later video thing where there were lots of music videos with Max Headroom being the sort of DJ on the show. So just, you need to bear all that in mind. The other people, Austin O'Brien was in this as well, who had previously been in Lawnmower Man 1. And then we have Ellie Puget. She did loads of TV series and films in the 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010s. She was in The Rift in 1990, Death Machine in 1994, which for some reason I want to watch just because it's called Death Machine.
Yeah.
Total Reality in 1997. And then we have Kevin Conway, who was in TV in the 70s and 80s. He did The Slaughterhouse 5 in 1972 and Funhouse in 1981. Yes. Now, the synopsis for this on IMDb. Now, the last film, that synopsis I read out was the full synopsis on IMDb. I'm going to read you now what was the synopsis that came up initially on IMDb, which is: after the destruction of virtual space industries at the end of the first film, Job is discovered in the rubble and is brought to the facilities of Jonathan Walker, where his face is reconstructed and he's put back online. There are another 3 pages of the synopsis on IMDb, which basically tell you what went on in the film that wasn't included in the film. Because there's nothing in the film that shows you that his face was reconstructed. Because when they take him out of the rubble, he looks exactly like Matt Frewer.
Yeah, all they said about the fact that they rebuilt was his arm and his legs. I think they were going to do.
So he looked like Matt Frewer when he came out. One of my big problems for this whole thing, and I know it happens quite often in sequels, is nowhere in this entire movie is it ever mentioned that the main character does not look anything like the main character as he looked in the first film, even by the one person in this film that knew him in the first film.
Yeah, actually, he jumps up in the beginning, or when they meet, showed him the lawnmower and went, "Oh, okay,
Yeah, oh, Job.
yeah."
And just I don't recognise
No,
you, but I don't recognise you because you don't look like you. But that's the lawnmower, so it
yeah.
must be you.
You don't look or sound or you're not even the same height of what you were back then. And I know obviously people change over time, but not that much. Just,
Yeah.
but then
All
again,
right.
I'm confused because of the fact that it starts off with them refinding or finding Job
Yep.
and reconstructing him in whatever way they did. And then all it says was, and then it comes up saying the future.
Yeah.
It doesn't say how far into the future. But looking at the age difference that the boy's meant to be from the first film to the second film, it looks like it's only been 2 years.
Well, you see, the first film was in 1992, and the second film was in 1996. So it's only actually 4 years.
Yeah,
So
but for what
it's,
was meant to happen in the time span of the planet, by the looks of it,
yeah,
it would have happened more than in 4 years.
I know. Now, the two main things I have with this film straight off the bat is whereas in the first film you had a monkey that had been trained to react and use this virtual reality stuff and could therefore let itself out of the cage and out of the facility, which is a little bit of a leap of belief anyway,
Yep,
but
especially as in
okay.
the first one, the monkey lockpicked the
But
gate.
yeah, but okay. I mean, this monkey has been trained and
Yep.
it's been used. No, okay. In this one, a bunch of teenagers managed to train their dog to understand an order from them in virtual reality to put a disc into the computer system to enable them to be able to ride motorbikes inside the virtual reality world they've got into. And the dog does it.
Not only does the dog pick it up with his mouth and put it in the machine, but then uses its paw to push it in.
Push it in, yeah. It's incredible. It's
Yeah,
amazing what you can do with animals.
amazing what you could do when you've got the time to train it and nothing
Anyway,
else by the
so
looks of
there's
it.
that. The next thing is the fact that Patrick Bergen's character, his professor, he's created this amazing chip, which, to be honest, if you were to use this chip to build a computer with, the computer would be the size of a warehouse because it's not actually a chip. It's like a
It's a
mini
pyramid.
pyramid.
Yeah,
It's a pyramid the size of like it's about that big,
yeah. It's just it's.
about an
I'd,
inch tall.
yeah, I'd say it's at least the size. Yeah, say probably the size of a Coke can, like a drink can.
Yeah. So anyway, he's created this, right? This corporation have taken it off him, and he takes them to court to try and make sure they can't take off him, but they win. Blah blah blah. As happens with lots of corporate things and all this kind of stuff. So he becomes a recluse. He goes away to the middle of nowhere, this desert, almost desert area where there's like these mountains that he's living in a shack. And he seems to have reverted to being like a Native American, which is quite interesting because he didn't look like a Native American
No,
before that.
he looks the furthest thing from it.
And there's nothing to say that he was. Anyway, so he does this, okay? This kid turns up, tells him about the Job and all this kind of stuff, and gives him a copy of a disc for him to watch this virtual reality thing on. Now, he has been shut off in this shack, which is just wood in the middle of a mountain, in the middle of a desert, for however long he's been there. Okay. He's still got a working computer. He's still got electricity that he can plug this computer into, and he can still get access to whatever he needs to get to access to be able to do that. And not only does it all work, but it's all up to date enough to play this new disc from a new system. I've had a laptop for a few years that's already out of date for a lot of stuff that I want to try and run on it. What computer did this bloke have?
Well, before we get to that bit, I also like the fact that this kid meets up with Job in the VR set. Yeah.
Mm.
they managed to record the whole conversation almost like it was done on film,
Yeah.
and do it without a problem. This kid then looks up he says he looks him up where this man lives. So he's not that much of a recluse if he's being able to be looked up. Not that much hidden away if people still know where he is.
Yeah.
Turn up, not only turn up and find him, but turn up on the motorbike that they used in the virtual reality set and hand it over to him. And you're like, then like you said, then be able to use a computer and everything like that. But the fact that he doesn't question anything the kid says.
No, well, as soon as he mentions the disc,
Well, he
or
said,
the,
yeah,
as soon as he
was it
mentions the chip, rather.
was it the, I can't remember,
I can't remember what it's
oh,
called.
the car on chip.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'd lost interest by then.
Just, I wouldn't, I don't know.
So the rest of the film is pretty much just exactly the same as the first film, with Matt Frewer's character getting bigger and stronger and taking over more and more stuff and gradually trying to take over the world. And again, it's pretty much echoes the first film in as much as the one thing that he doesn't want to do is hurt the kid. So he, because of that, helps them to win. My biggest problem with this film is every single time, as somebody who grew up watching music videos and things a lot in the 1980s, I'm old enough to remember when MTV had music videos on. You know, I mean, that's how far it goes back. But my biggest problem is that every single time Matt Frewer turned up on the virtual reality thing, I could see in my head was Max Headroom.
Yeah.
I could just keep expecting him to keep turning around and just looking at the camera and going, and next up, more of the same. It was just, I just could not get Max Headroom out of my head when I was watching it.
The thing is, I think with this, he was trying too hard with sci-fi on this one. It was like we've seen films where they don't try hard enough or whatever. It's just right. But this just seemed like everything they could do
Yeah,
to sort of make it look like it was the future.
yeah.
Apart from the shack, um, was like the car that had that was all square, and even the bikes. I don't understand now why the bikes were suddenly gone from being sort of round and stuff like that, which you can get nowadays, to being square.
Okay.
Like suddenly in the future, no one knows what a curve is anymore. It's just, I don't know. It's definitely what I'm saying as well. From the 2002 film to this one, the graphics seem to have got worse.
I just think they had less budget.
Yeah, but I just, and the acting as well. Oh my god.
Yeah, the acting in this is absolutely abysmal. It
Yeah,
really is.
the best acting I saw out of the whole film was actually from the dog.
Well, no, I think Matt Frewer was the best thing about the
Oh,
film, to be honest.
Matt Frewer, I've got to admit, I love watching this
But
man.
the thing about
He plays bizarre and deranged very well.
Matt Frewer is the fact that I can never take him seriously.
No,
He's a great comedian, but then other than that, but as I say, I kept seeing him as Max Headroom, so that didn't help.
yeah,
But
the shots of him in the gold, oh, the gold ones, the
yeah.
onesie sort of. I sat there and I was just like,
Also, there was things like when you had people talking and you just had his head on a TV in the corner in the background. It was just like somebody's watching Max Headroom on TV.
it's the fact as well. It didn't help the fact that obviously he's meant to play this sort of madman or mad sort of VR sort of person. So he has to laugh every now and again. So the problem is that when the others are talking and he's then doing it, all it does look like he's just broken character and sitting in the background laughing.
Yeah, he just sits. I think he's sitting there quite sitting, and he just sort of goes. Well, but it was bizarre. But it's if you take these two films together, right? If you were
Yeah.
to take these two films together, if you were to take half of the ideas from Brainstorm
Yeah.
half of the ideas for virtuosity, nail them together on a bit of wood with some really bad acting and writing, then you get these two films.
Yeah.
The problem with it is that the ideas and the things they've taken from the other two films are the bits that didn't work.
Suddenly the bits of the films where people went, scrap that, and someone went, actually pass them here.
Yeah.
I'll get rid of them.
But I mean, to me, it says everything. When IMDb have to have like 3 pages of synopsis to explain to you what's happening in a film that you could just sit and watch.
What I think is weird, and I don't know whether or not this was me or not, but the film that the version we watched, yeah. So the first one was almost 2 hours long, so I think an hour and 50 minutes.
That was actually a slightly longer version than the
Yeah.
normal cinema release. That was the I can't remember what they called it now.
The director's cut or whatever it was.
Something like that, yeah.
But that seemed like quite a reasonable length film. Now, number 2 is actually half an hour shorter, but felt like 4 weeks longer.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
I sat there at one point and I was like, this film is going on forever. And I looked at the timer, I was like, it's been on for 20 minutes. I felt like I've been sitting there for days watching it.
I know it is awful. It's. I mean, I understand that it's made on a cheaper budget and all that kind of thing, but I'm not quite sure why they bothered making it, because it didn't do anything, didn't add anything to anything.
If anything, all it was the first film just later on.
Yeah, and it was just. The only connection between it and the first film was the name of the character, not the actual character himself, and the boy.
I suppose the only other connection was the first scene, or the last scene of the first film, the first scene of the last film, the second film, where it shows Harry escaped.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the only connection at all.
It's just. I mean, I don't know. I just find the whole thing just really weird. Why they would bother, and why. I mean, there was nothing more that needed to be said to the first film. It's not like there was stuff left undone as such. It just could have been like, he died in the explosion. There you go, done.
Or even the fact that obviously in the first one, when they go to leave and go off wherever they're going,
yeah, the phone starts
the
ringing.
phone's ring. But even that, there's no need to carry it on. It's just like, and even if you are going to carry it on, at least carry it on from a bit that makes sense, not from carry it on the side of the film where nothing then makes sense and anything to do with the first one.
No, it really. The second film was quite a pointless film that was made just to cash in on the first one. The first one wasn't that great a success, so I wonder why they bothered.
I said the only good part of it was the metaphor and the dog.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's so. My advice to anyone out there would be, if you want to see a good film about virtual reality, right? Now, if you want to see a good film that's got to do with virtual reality or the way that computers interact with the human brain, what I would suggest you do is watch Brainstorm. Ignore Lawnmower Man 1 and 2. Watch Brainstorm and maybe Virtuosity, because that's quite a good action movie.
Yep.
But ignore these two films completely, because they are pretty much garbage.
Yeah, I do think though that like this, the first one, Lawnmower Man 1, might have been like the whole sort of mainly for Pierce Brosnan, for someone saying, look, we'll give you James Bond, but you've got to do this first.
You've got to do this first, yeah.
You've got to do this first, just to prove that you, just as a sort of IOU.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
We'll give you the role, but you've got to do this.
It's a contractual obligation.
Yeah, yeah. We'll pencil you in for the next however many Bond films. Actually, you've got to do this one. We know it's going to be rubbish, but you've now signed the paperwork, so you've got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could forgive it if it was a comedy, but it's not.
No, it's the fact that it genuinely tries taking itself seriously.
Yeah.
Both of them do, and it's
Yeah, and the
scary.
second one's even worse for that, to be honest. It takes itself far too seriously. But there you go. So another week of fantastic movies that we would recommend you ignore and keep well away from. Just our personal point of view, you understand. I mean, if you have a difference of opinion, and I know that there are people out there who have a difference of opinion to us on certain things, because I've had people, and you may find this hard to believe, Scott, but I've had people take issue with me over our feelings about Humanoids from the Deep.
What?
I have had people who tell me that they think it's a fantastic film.
Well, they obviously need to go and get a brain scan.
Well, no, I mean, people are entitled to their opinions, however wrong they might be. But no, that they're entitled to their opinions. It is a matter of opinion. Some people like films that other people don't. It's as simple as that. However, what I would say is that I find it very hard to believe that there are many people out there who would rate Lawnmower Man 1, and especially Lawnmower Man 2, within anywhere near their top 100 science fiction films.
Do you know what? I don't think I'd even rate it in my top 1,000 films.
So, if you rate it, if you think it's a really good film, or you think that we are completely out of order in our review of this and our feelings towards it, then please let us know. We are more than happy to hear everybody else's opinion. I'm more than happy for you to come on and discuss your feelings towards it, if you would like to. If you have a well thought out and reasoned argument as to why we should like it, we'd be more than happy to hear it.
I'd also like to know what medication they're taking and where I can get some.
So during the meanwhile, this is us. We are, and we have always been, and we will be until we're not. So without further ado, or don't, or do what you do dum dum, or something. We will be seeing you next week. Now, next time we will be doing the same thing again.
Oh, yippee.
But this time we will be looking at two horror films. A film and its only sequel.
Which I do agree with you. It's a lot harder than most people would think.
This one is going back a little bit in time, though. We are going back to the annals of history. Well, not that far, actually. We're going back to the 70s, I think. But the advantage that this has over any other film that we have ever reviewed, is that the lead character in the both of these films, which is good because the lead character is played by the same person. Amazingly, I know. But the lead character in both of the films that we will be doing next week is played by Vincent Price, who is possibly the greatest horror actor in the world.
Also, I am proud to say that I am partly named after.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So next week we will be reviewing The Abominable Dr. Phibes and Dr. Phibes Rises Again. Fantastic movies. So until then, thank you very much, Scott.
That's okay.
And I'm sorry to have put you through watching these two films. Thank you very much to anyone and everyone listening, watching, hearing, thinking, believing, eating bananas or whatever else. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
The Sci-Forror Film Podcast.